everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on should our AI assistant be allowed or even encouraged to vote for us. Thank you, Mr. Don, for joining today's session. My first question: what technologies advancement are required to enable AI to make informed and accurate voting decisions? And I know that you are working with data center. How does it work?
That's very complicated, Sharif. I thank you for asking me to come on and talk about this because this is an incredibly important issue and nobody's paying much attention to it. Well, I think we forget as people, or we've never, even if we ever really knew who we are and what we're supposed to be doing here. Only by delving into some of the information that's been provided to us by the Eastern religions do we actually understand the personal nature of what we are. And we are a complex being, which in terms of Einstein's understanding of things, we have one foot in space-time and the other one in time-space. We are a multidimensional being. And we are capable of sensing a whole range of things across that spectrum, things that science can't even comprehend or can't even hasn't learnt to deal with yet. And now they're talking about allowing, getting us to put machines into our bodies and everything else, when what we should be doing is working on ourselves and the natural tendencies that we all have. We all have this. It's only a matter of degree. It's not that nobody doesn't. So that's the first thing. Now, we should be allowing things to stay roughly where they are and to be developing naturally as, if you like, nature intended, I suppose. There is a process to this, an evolution, if you like, and that is something which has not been taken fully into account. When it comes to artificial systems, especially like our political system and our voting, there should be no AI involved in it whatsoever, because it's too easy to rig it and to control it or to hack it or anything else. It should all be done manually. It may be slower, but at least it has the transparency that's needed, and there shouldn't be any of our governance systems should not have anything AI attached to it whatsoever in a decision-making capacity. That's essentially the standpoint.
Excellent. What are the ethical implications arise from owning AI assistant? What do you think about ethical application?
Ethical applications, that's a different thing. Let's take a trip through history, shall we? In Europe, we had a thing called the enclosure movement. And the enclosure movement was about a bunch of people who decided to kick all their tenant farmers off their land and consolidate their land with the new technologies of the plough and a few things, the new technology in agriculture. So the serfs or the peasants, if you like, or the workers, the tenant workers, weren't required. So they kicked them off and they sent them all to the cities where they lived in slums and became a cheap labour source for the Industrial Revolution. Now, that's happening again now. If you take a car factory or any form of manufacturing, that can all be done now by a robot. They even have now robots, humanoid type robots that can pick fruit and do a whole bunch of other things. And that means that there is now going to be a new enclosure movement, if you like, where there's going to be millions of people displaced by machines because machines are more reliable, easier to handle, and in the end of the day, they'll be cheaper. Now, I don't know what that has to do with the message of life and what we're supposed to be doing, but there's got to be a limit placed on how this happens. We've got to actually restructure our thinking around what our spiritual values are and what we're actually looking for in life. This whole idea of working 9 to 5 and then retiring when you're 60 or whatever it is, and then supposedly living the good life, it's all That's another very ancient concept. It's called the Veil of Tears. It's a 10th century mechanism from the Dark Ages and Catholic Church. So we're just repeating ourselves, and we're not taking the lessons from history. So the ethical use of these things is fine, but we have to really, really sit down and talk about what we're doing as a society, how we're going to structure it, and what parts of it we are going to allow to become automatic.
Excellent. What ethical technological advancement are required to enable AI to make informed? What do you think? And if you share
Sorry?
your business model of uh, data center, that will be helpful for us.
Well, data centers are rather interesting because they're terribly overpriced at the moment, and there's going to be a shortage of data because they need to going to be able to process all the new AI that's going to be coming in. So it is a growth industry, and there's some good money in it. And when we set them up, unfortunately, there's a monopoly going on between the big boys, the Googles and Amazons of this world and everything else. And we need more open source, private, independent networks that are actually free and away from surveillance, the surveillance state, the deep state, and essentially they can be fully service the things that we need. I'll give you an example of a project that we're working on at the moment. Elon Musk's Starlink or Skynet or whatever it is, it's pretty much all the same to me. It's just another excuse for Terminator as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, nothing against Elon personally. He's probably got some good uses for it, and there probably are some good uses for it. The military in Ukraine, for instance, are using it with gay abandon to get the Russians. So I suppose there's some good things coming out of it. But getting back to the coverage finishes at a latitude on the Danish-German border. There's nothing north of that. So being involved in Scandinavia, and that's where our data resource is located. They have extremely good fibre. They've got fibre from hell, in fact, because there's no satellite coverage for them. And we were working in Canada recently, and of course that means that 2/3 of Canada doesn't have it either. So how do you solve that? And the people that are most disadvantaged by that are the remote communities, and most of those are First Nations. So if there's an AI system in place in Canada, for instance, we could run loitering airships and surveillance operations for bushfires or forest fires, for search and rescue, for communications purposes, for uplink, coordination of medical services, remote doctors' visits, and the whole gambit of social life can be immensely enhanced by this. And it's just simply by a simple thing called connectivity. And at the moment, it's too selective. And the other aspect of Elon Musk's system, of course, is that it's low Earth orbit. And that means that every 7 minutes, the satellite coming on station has got to receive the messages from the satellite going off station. That's why he wants to put 40,000 of them up there. So if we're going to do that, how are we going to get off the planet? I mean, there's going to be a traffic jam up there trying to get out and explore the universe, if you like, because it is inevitable that we will leave this rock and go and spread our poison to somebody else's rock.
Excellent. What changes current electoral laws and regulation would be necessary to accommodate AI voting? What do you think?
Well, I think the whole thing should be. I think the whole thing should be wound back. There should be no vote counting by a machine, none whatsoever. It should all be done manually. You're not going to be able to shut down social media, and the stranglehold that certain vested interests have over the standard press at the moment. Nobody's watching the news anymore. They're getting all of their information off social media. So the influencing, of course, is going to increase, and that's where some education is going to be needed so that we can teach people how to sort that out. Be able to spot the fake news, if you like. But anyway, it's becoming a very unreliable world in the information domain at the moment, simply because people are trying to make it that way to muddy the waters. So there needs to be more legislation to tighten that up and start sending a few of these people to jail, and just basically keeping AI that's able to be tampered with and to be influenced out of the systems, and then just leaving. Well, I don't know if there's anything that can be done legislatively for that just at the moment, because the whole thing's got to flop out a little bit further before we can actually properly see it. But there are things that can be done now, and the first thing is to just get rid of it out of the electoral system and the power structure, and to tighten up the content on social media.
Thank you.
That doesn't mean censorship on social media. It means prosecuting people who are using it for complete rubbish, because we already have those laws in place. It's called libel and slander.
Thank you. How you want to share your business experience with our audience, and what's your closing remarks?
Well, we fund ESG based projects because we're very, very interested in community development and keeping people with jobs and giving them opportunities to develop economically, socially, spiritually. And you're not going to do that if you're going to be made a slave to a new to the new tyranny of a technical revolution rather than an industrial revolution, or, come to think of it, the tyranny of the Stone Age, which was basically just keeping yourself warm and fed. So yeah. So the yes. Sorry. Yeah, can you ask me the question again, please?
How you want to share your business experience with our
Oh
audience?
yes, the business experience. So we use data as a method of and ESG and green and the green technologies that we have. We use those to actually fund our projects and to pay the coupons and on the finance and everything else. And we find that in most cases there's sufficient revenue in that alone, in those innovations alone, to actually support the business model and allow the project to go ahead. Under the standard finance rules, that's quite difficult. But if you actually add green and you actually add the other aspects to it, then it becomes quite easy. And people haven't actually worked that out, that it becomes cheaper to do that. But if you can fund more of these projects, infrastructure type projects, which have more of a social interest in them, then we're going to be able to make some real changes, because those changes will not be something which somebody thinks up and then dictates that we're going to do this and do that. This is groups of people getting together and driving it from the grassroots.
Thank you. We have 2 more sessions, so see you next session. Thank you, dear audience. I request all of our audience, please share our content as much as possible with the government agency, corporation, and academia. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.
Okay. Thank you.